Edith Boling Wilson's name is most often linked with the White House and the controversial period after President Woodrow Wilson's 1919 stroke. But her story begins in Wytheville, Virginia, a small, picturesque town tucked into the Blue Ridge foothills, whose main street preserves a single brick building that was both her childhood home and today a museum dedicated to her life. The Edith Boling Wilson Birthplace Museum is free to visit and is located on the first floor. There are plans to renovate the second floor, which was the former Bolling residence, and if you're lucky, you can get a private tour.
This was her parents' room. Edith was born in this room, as well as 7 other brothers and sisters. The floor is original, the the fireplace is original, the wallpaper is not. After the family leaves, the house becomes a boarding house for more than 50 years. And as you go through, you'll see all kinds of very interesting wallpaper, and it all comes back to that boarding house era. This right here just gives a summary of her mother. She really was close to her mother.
The Bolling building itself dates back to the mid-19th century and is architecturally distinctive for Wythville. The complex is essentially 3 interconnected 2-story units with front gabled wings flanking a central section, unified by brick that suggests a taller facade. Historically, the ground floor held shops while the family lived above. Over the decade, the building has performed many civic and commercial functions. It served at one point as a Confederate hospital, but then as apartments and a variety of storefronts. But its most historically significant occupant was the Bolling family, who lived on the second floor when Edith Boling was born on October 15, 1872. The house retains antebellum features that help visitors imagine domestic life in a small southern town in the late 19th century. Edith Boling's childhood in Wythville shaped crucial parts of her identity. Born the 7th of 11 children to William Holcomb Bolling, a county judge, and Sarah Spears Bolling, Edith grew up in a household that prized lineage, civic service, and social ritual. The Bollings were among Virginia's long-established families and traced descent through complex colonial genealogies to figures such as Jane Rolfe and indirectly to Pocahontas, an ancestral connection that bolsters family claims to deep Virginian roots. The town environment, combined with the family's social status, provided Edith with a genteel upbringing, manners, and social education that later eased her entrance into Washington society. Yet, like many Southern families after the Civil War, the Bollings also had to reinvent themselves economically and socially, and their move to the Main Street brick home reflected these adjustments. Wythville itself grew from the crossroads economy of 19th century southwestern Virginia. Chartered as a town in a region shaped by Appalachian culture and later by railroads and highways, Wythville became a local center for commerce, law, and social life for the surrounding farms and mountain valleys. The Bolling building on Main Street is one of the oldest brick commercial structures in town. Their central location reflects the Bollings' place in local society. They were part of the established Virginia gentry, whose antebellum roots and post-war adjustments mirrored larger Southern transitions after the Civil War. Edith Bolling's path from Wythville to the White House followed personal as well as social channels. She first married Norman Galt, a Washington jeweler, in 1896. After his death, she returned to a social and philanthropic life in the capital, where she met President Woodrow Wilson. Their marriage in 1915 moved her into the national spotlight, and the events following President Wilson's stroke in 1919, when Edith played a central and controversial administrative role, made her one of the most discussed and debated first ladies of the early 20th century. Historians have emphasized both her political acumen and the opaque boundaries she created while stewarding presidential responsibilities, leading to enduring debates about her power and propriety in the Wilson administration. For visitors to Wythville, those decades-long national dramas are given a human scale by rooms, photographs, and objects that connect the First Lady's public life back to the house where she first learned the customs that would serve her in Washington. The museum that now bears her name is the result of local preservation efforts and private initiative. The Bolling building, sometimes referred to locally as the Bolling home, was recognized for its historic value but also found itself vulnerable to deterioration in the late 20th century. In the face of that risk, local advocates and the Edith Boling Wilson Birthplace Foundation undertook stabilization, restoration, and curation work. The museum organization assembled artifacts, family letters, photographs, and period furnishings that illuminate both domestic life in Wythville and Edith's later public role. These preservation efforts have been recognized by statewide historic preservation advocates and have become a focal point for community pride and heritage tourism. Visiting the Edith Boling Birthplace Museum is a compact but rewarding experience. The museum, located at 145 East Main Street, operates with modest hours and relies heavily on volunteers and donations. Admission is free for individuals, though groups are encouraged to schedule tours in advance. Exhibitions emphasize contextual storytelling rather than grand artifacts, like her baby crib and period furniture, images of Wythville and Washington, and materials that anchored Edith's public initiatives, including her wartime domestic campaigns such as conservation efforts. For scholars and the public alike, the museum offers a reminder that the lives of national figures are rooted in local contexts, family legacies, town economies, and the physical spaces of childhood. By preserving the Bolling building and interpreting its story, Wythville has ensured that the complexities of Edith's life, her Southern lineage, her social mobility, her contested public role in the presidency, are accessible not only as abstract history, but as lived experience tied to a particular house on a Virginia main street. For anyone interested in early 20th century political history, women's history, or the material culture of Southern towns, a stop at the Edith Boling Wilson Birthplace Museum offers perspective. It shrinks national controversies to domestic scales and invites reflection on how ordinary places produce extraordinary lives.